When people talk about blockchains being decentralized, they often mention nodes, but very few actually explain what a node is or why it matters, even though nodes are the backbone of how these networks work. At its simplest, a node is just a computer running blockchain software that connects to the network. That computer keeps a copy of the blockchain, verifies transactions, and follows the rules of a protocol. When you send a transaction, it doesn't go to a company or a server owned by one entity. It gets broadcast to nodes across the network. And those nodes independently check whether the transaction is valid. They verify things like digital signatures, balances, and protocol rules, and only validate transactions get passed along and eventually included in blocks. This is what removes the need for trust. Instead of trusting a bank, a company, or a platform, you're trusting math and a network of independent participants who all verify the same information. The more independent nodes a network has, the harder it becomes to censor transactions, manipulate data, or shut the system down. That's why nodes matter so much. They're what make a blockchain resilient. If one node goes offline, the network keeps running. If several nodes disappear, others take their place. There's no single point of failure. This is also where the difference between using a blockchain and supporting a blockchain becomes clear. When you run your own node, you're not just trusting somebody else's view of the network. You're independently verifying it yourself. You're checking the rules, validating the history, and making sure the data you see is accurate. According to Andreas Antonopoulos in his book Mastering Bitcoin, nodes are what enforce the rules of the network because they independently validate transactions and blocks rather than blindly accepting them from others. Quick pause here. If these explanations are helping you understand how blockchains actually work under the hood, take a second to subscribe because this channel is all about building real understanding from simple and easy explainers such as this one. Now, back to nodes. Not all nodes do the same thing. Some nodes simply validate and relay transactions, while others also produce blocks depending on the blockchain's consensus mechanism. But even nodes that don't create blocks are still incredibly important because they help distribute data, verify information, and keep the network honest. Without nodes, there is no decentralization. You just have a blockchain in name only, controlled by a small group of servers. Nodes are what also make blockchains resistant to censorship. If a government, company, or attacker wants to block certain transactions or users, they'd have to control or shut down a majority of the network's nodes, which becomes exponentially harder as the network grows. In simple terms, nodes are the reason blockchains don't need permission to function. They replace centralized infrastructure with a shared global network of independently run computers. And once you understand what nodes are and what they matter, you start to see decentralization not just as a buzzword, but as something that's actively enforced every second by people running software around the world. That's what gives blockchains their strength, and that's why nodes matter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.